Ashes of innocence. The sky above Lake Caracal turned red just before the end. A dozen children were playing outside the Orlov Memorial Orphanage, their laughter rising like sparks into the cold mountain air. It was late autumn, and the frost kissed everything with silver. Miss Anya, the head caretaker, was inside preparing lunch, thick borscht and black bread. Nothing suggested that the heavens were about to open. Then the sun blinked. No warning, no sirens, no screaming jets, just a sudden, violent silence. At first, it was as if reality itself paused, a tremor in the fabric of space, a ripple that ran cold through the bones of the world. Then came the light, blinding, artificial, too pure to be natural. One child, 5-year-old Maxim, looked up and pointed. Star. It was the last word any of them spoke. The Empire's orbital strike didn't just vaporize the orphanage. It annihilated the entire ridge. A 10-kilometer radius turned to glass. The once pristine lake boiled away in seconds. No one survived. No trace remained, save for ash fused into black stone. The Empire issued no statement, no apology. It hadn't been a military target. No weapons, no political dissidents, no defense grid. The only strategic value it held was symbolic. It was the birthplace of the woman who once made the stars tremble. To the Galactic Empire, this was a warning shot. To humanity, it was something else entirely. 3 hours later, in the war chamber beneath Geneva Spire, Earth's leadership gathered in stunned silence. The mood was not rage. Not yet. It was cold. Surgical. General Usha Malik stood at the head of the long, obsidian table, her eyes hollowed by grief and calculation. Around her, hollow projections of scorched earth flickered, showing before and after satellite scans. Child-sized shadows were etched into concrete like grotesque murals. They picked their target deliberately, Malik said. There are no rogue commanders in the Imperial Third Fleet. This was sanctioned. They're testing us, President Okoye said quietly, to see if we'll bark or bite. Barking won't bring back the children. Silence again. Finally, Admiral Nakamura leaned forward, hands clasped. There's only one asset that fits this kind of message. One response they'll understand. All eyes turned to him. Malik didn't blink. She's not an asset. She's a containment breach with a kill count. She's also the only reason the Zarthi Accords still exist, Nakamura said. You don't send diplomats after they bomb a school. You send myths. No one dared speak her name, but everyone thought it. Far below the Ural Mountains, deeper than any satellite could scan, slept a relic of Earth's darkest wars. She had no official designation, no rank, just a name whispered among enemy generals and feared by entire colonies. The Baba Yaga. Behind 5 meters of reinforced alloy, her cryo chamber pulsed with slow, blue light. Vines of cables ran into her spine, arms, and skull, feeding her systems, suppressing her nightmares. Around her chamber stood the relics of old wars, shattered helmets, alien blades, the scorched banners of defeated worlds. A single caretaker remained on site, an aging man with deep-set eyes and a prosthetic leg. He watched the chamber in silence, whispering old prayers in Russian, ones his grandmother had taught him. Stories of the woman with iron teeth and death in her footsteps. When the emergency clearance code came through, the lights turned crimson. Her eyes opened. In Geneva, the room fell in a shadow as the decision was made. There was no vote, only the silent consensus of leaders who had seen what happened to Earth's future. Irina Volkova, Malik said, speaking her name aloud for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Authorized for active deployment. Technicians began flipping encrypted switches. Target data was loaded. A black case was opened, revealing a worn, hand-forged axe. Not ceremonial, not symbolic, functional. The president's voice was barely more than a whisper. God help us. General Malik shook her head. God didn't answer today. She will. From the Empire's nearest outpost, a junior communications officer filtered through intercepted chatter, mostly static, except for one phrase repeating through encrypted Earth military frequencies. Releasing containment. Baba Yaga active. He didn't understand the words, but deep in his gut, something curdled. and in a language he didn't speak, a name was already crossing lips in frightened tones. The Baba Yaga walks. The monster we keep in a cage. The tomb had no name. Buried deep in the Ural Mountains, beneath strata of rock and defense systems older than most of Earth's cities, it was known only by its code name, Kashiai's tomb. The irony wasn't lost on the few who knew its purpose. In Slavic legend, Kashiai the Deathless kept his soul hidden in a needle, locked in an egg, inside a duck, buried beneath a tree on an island. Nearly impossible to destroy. Humanity had done the same with its most dangerous weapon. Inside the tomb, silence reigned. Not peaceful, but coiled, waiting. Lights were dim, motion sensors dormant. Even the AI that monitored the facility maintained a kind of reverent quiet. At its core was the chamber, a room not built for comfort or containment, but reverence. Fear. She hung suspended in the center, limbs encased in carbon steel restraints, spinal harness trailing biocables into the wall. Her body was lean, too still, muscles unnaturally taut, even in stasis. Silver lines traced beneath her skin, cybernetic interface, ports fused into bone. Her eyes, closed now, had once been described by an alien ambassador as black holes with teeth. A nameplate near her chamber bore no name, only a designation. Project, Baba Yaga _01. She was not meant to wake again. Major General Artyom Resnik stood at the threshold of her chamber, helmet tucked under his arm, breath misting in the cold. He hadn't seen Irina Volkova in 22 years. Not since he'd ordered the orbital retreat during the siege of Ankaris, abandoning her and her squad behind enemy lines. She alone returned, 2 weeks later, covered in blood and ash, dragging the heads of 3 enemy commanders in a sack. She'd said only 5 words. I made them understand fear. Resnik had believed her. He believed her more than he wanted to. Now, looking at her suspended in cold iron and blue light, something old stirred in his chest. Not regret, but caution. Some weapons dulled with time. Others only grew sharper. The AI's voice broke the silence. Authorization code received. Confirm action. Revival protocol Volkova Prime. Resnik didn't hesitate. Confirmed. Fluid hissed as cryo lines disengaged. Lights blinked amber, then red. A heartbeat monitor stuttered once, then settled into a steady thrum. Her eyes opened. No slow acclamation. No confusion. Just immediate awareness. Volkova tilted her head, like an animal hearing something no one else could. Her eyes, icy gray now, not the black pits from the stories, locked on Resnik. She didn't speak. He swallowed once. Orphanage. Lake Karakul. They bombed it. Still nothing. The Empire. Third Fleet. Civilian target. Children. Gone. A pause. Then, quietly, her lips parted. How many? Resnik's voice cracked. 42. Volkova closed her eyes again, just for a moment. When they opened, something behind them had changed. She didn't need vengeance explained to her. Unlock me, she said. Resnik hesitated. They'll say this is unlawful, that you're a war crime waiting to happen. She stared. I'm the war. The restraints unlatched one by one with metallic clicks. She stepped down barefoot, scarred feet silent on the steel floor. A small locker opened, revealing her belongings, untouched for decades. Combat fatigues, reinforced bodysuit, the black oxide combat axe forged during her final Earth deployment. Etched into its head was a phrase in Old Russian. Zavsek DDI, for all the children. She ran a hand over the blade, then clipped it to her back. Resnik followed her as she walked toward the launch chamber. Do you have a plan? She didn't look back. They will. Far above Earth, the Empire's nearest outpost received the first ping of incoming. One black ship. No ID signature. No broadcast channel. Just a name pulsing across the encrypted frequencies of a forgotten war. Volkova. The communications officer's hands trembled as he ran the signal through 3 translation programs. The name came up again and again. Baba Yaga. He turned to his superior. Is it some kind of code? A ship class? The officer didn't answer. His skin had gone pale. He remembered the stories from the Outer Wars. The ghosts that turned entire battalions into art pieces. The woman who never used a gun, only blades. She's real, he whispered. The signal repeated. Closer now. Coming for your children. And in that moment, the Galactic Empire learned what humans had buried. Not a soldier, not a hero, a myth. The Galactic Empire meets folklore. High Admiral Vel Torvax of the Galactic Empire had never heard the name Baba Yaga before. He was not a man accustomed to fearing the unknown. His fleet, the Third Imperial Armada, had reduced over 30 civilizations to subjugation or ash. He had crushed rebellions, vaporized cities, and executed planetary leaders with mechanical precision. So when his comms officer told him that a single stealth vessel had penetrated 3 layers of outer sector surveillance and destroyed 2 listening posts without triggering alarms, he frowned, not panicked. Human stealth tech, he muttered, swirling his wine as he watched the stars from the deck of the dreadnought Imperium's Claw. Inferior. Must be lucky. Or broken. The third report came within the hour. An outpost on the moon of Tarsus had been annihilated. No orbital bombardment. No fleet engagement. Just torn bodies. Scorched hallways. Walls painted with archaic symbols and soot. No survivors. The last audio file ended with one sentence whispered in an unfamiliar tongue, recorded by the station's failing security log before it cut out. She walks between shadows. Baba Yaga didn't rage. She cleansed. Her strikes were methodical, not impulsive. Each target was chosen for its proximity to the fleet responsible for the Caracal bombing. Fuel depots, comm nodes, sensor arrays. Each fell in silence. Her ship, Domovoy, was a sleek black wedge of untraceable alloys, running on fusion reactors older than any Imperial registry. But Volkova didn't rely on ships. She moved like folklore, like rot beneath civilization. Her cybernetics enhanced muscle memory, reflexes, stealth, integrated with ancient guerrilla techniques and brutal Slavic hand-to-hand systems. At Station Vargo, a dozen Empire Marines found their own weapons turned against them, reassembled into bone-piercing traps. The commander was nailed to the wall with a sign carved in bloodless script. You bombed our children. I'm here for yours. On Kiefel Station, an elite psionic assassin team tried to ambush her with precognition algorithms. Their internal sensory feeds caught only glimpses, a glint of metal and smoke, a lullaby being hummed, the words of an Earth song none of them understood. She left no survivors, only pieces. By the end of the second week, the name Baba Yaga had crossed every comm channel in the Third Fleet. She's a Black Ops ghost, one officer claimed. No, she's a war AI gone rogue, another insisted. Some believed she was a demon Earth had summoned. None believed she was just a woman, because she wasn't. Meanwhile, Volkova stood before her next target, a data fortress on Grenthos 9, deep in the fleet's operations network. Behind its walls were the navigational logs that would trace the chain of command back to the admiral who gave the order to bomb Caracal. She didn't storm the gates. She dismantled them. One by one, guards went missing, dragged into vents or sliced apart by drones shaped like iron chicken legs, a twisted nod to the tails of her namesake. She planted matryoshka bombs, nested micro-explosives that triggered in psychological rhythm, mimicking the beats of an old Russian funeral march. Within 2 hours, the base fell. She retrieved the logs and walked away without a word. On the Imperium's Claw, Admiral Torvax stood pale before the bridge crew as the footage played. She's using old folklore as terror tactics, his intelligence officer said. The chicken leg drones are a reference to the Baba Yaga myth from Earth. Same with the axe, the lullabies, the symbols. Torvax slammed his fist on the console. Then why are my elite units dead? Why do we not see her coming? No one answered. Because the answer was clear, they weren't fighting a person. They were fighting fear itself, weaponized. Inside her ship, Volkova stared at the holographic star map. She traced a line through her next route, leading directly to the dreadnought that launched the attack on Earth. The Imperium's Claw. She rotated the image slowly, fingers pausing over the ship's icon. Its silhouette was sharp and arrogant. Too large, too loud. She whispered something in Old Russian, a line from a fable long buried in snow and blood. In the darkness, the witch waits. In the fire, she dances. She loaded her axe with a new gravitic edge and leaned back into the pilot's chair. Soon, in the Empire's core sectors, whispers spread beyond the military. Civilians heard rumors of an old Earth weapon, a ghost woman who carved fear into hulls, who answered atrocities with ancient vengeance. Refugees from the outposts began tattooing their children's backs with sigils of protection stolen from human folk art. In the night markets, vendors sold charms shaped like matryoshka dolls, whispering that to carry one meant she would spare your child. One general wept alone in his war room, remembering the eyes of a girl from a raid 2 decades ago. He thought she died in the flames. Now, he prayed she wouldn't remember him. But Baba Yaga they never forgot. She only waited. The axe falls. The Imperium's claw drifted like a crown of death above the industrial moon of Alexis Prime, protected by a fleet of escorts, sensor drones, and autocannon satellites. Its hull was armored with layer upon layer of reflective plating, and its AI warfare suite could fry entire battalions of enemy mechs with a pulse. None of that mattered, because the Baba Yaga wasn't coming with an army. She was coming alone, and she was already inside. Admiral Vel Torvax reviewed the breach reports for the 4th time, each one less believable than the last. Security teams had gone silent. The central AI core had activated purge protocols on its own systems, convinced it had been infected with something it couldn't understand. Internal comms were flooded with corrupted lullabies. Earth nursery rhymes reversed, distorted, echoing through the ship's ventilation systems. "I want a full sweep of the lower decks," Torvax barked. "No exceptions. Seal the hangars. Use gas. If it breathes, it dies." His voice shook more than he wanted to admit. Captain Solax stepped forward. "Sir, the crew's morale is collapsing. Some are refusing to patrol alone. They say she's not a soldier. They say she's death." Torvax sneered. "Then they could die afraid, as they deserve." He turned toward the forward viewport, where Earth's sun still glimmered faintly in the distance. "She wants vengeance? Let her come. Let her bleed for every dead child. I'll hang her corpse from the bow." Deck 7 went dark at 0300 hours. An emergency lighting protocol kicked in for 3 seconds before it too died. By then, it was already too late. The first squad found a hallway flooded with steam, bodies scattered in ritualized positions, each tagged with a child's name etched into their armor. The words, "Do you hear them now?" burned into the floor with plasma. They ran. She followed. She didn't scream or roar. She whispered, one by one, their names, in their own voices. She moved like smoke, struck like steel. Bullets slowed her. Fire rolled over her. But nothing stopped her. They called her a myth. She made sure they died believing it. Torvax stood in the bridge, heart racing. "Evacuate to the reserve dreadnought," he ordered. "If she's truly aboard, she's coming for me. I won't give her the satisfaction." He turned to his captain, who was already reaching for her sidearm. "You don't understand, do you?" she whispered. He froze. "She's not coming for you. She's already here." The lights blinked once, and Volkova stepped from shadows. She was burned, bleeding, wrapped in soot and shredded combat mesh. But her axe was whole, clean, cold as death. Torvax opened his mouth to beg, to reason. She moved faster. The axe came down in a single arc. When it hit, the lights died completely. Later, Earth's long-range scans would confirm it. The Imperium's claw shattered from the inside. No explosion. No ship-to-ship combat. Just silence. Then flickering wreckage tumbling into Valexis' gravity well. Every Imperial signature vanished. The Empire's Third Armada was leaderless. Volkova sat alone in the ruined observation deck, high above the ship's broken engine core. The blackened bones of the dreadnought drifted around her, lit by sparks and failing grav fields. Blood stained her hands. Her axe rested beside her, embedded in the command console. She watched Earth's distant sun rise over Valexis. Not with peace, not with satisfaction, just silence. Miss Anya's voice echoed in her mind, warm, long gone. "Promise me you'll protect the little ones, Irinushka. Promise me you'll never become what hurt you." She kept that promise. Sort of. The little ones were avenged. But what she had become, What Earth needed her to become was no longer human. It never had been. 1 week later, at the Earth Council chamber in Geneva's Spire, President Okoye addressed a hushed chamber. Let the records show that the Galactic Empire has withdrawn its outer fleets. The Third Armada is no longer a threat. No formal surrender has been offered. No apology issued. General Malik stood at her side, unreadable. But the Empire has sent one signal. She tapped a hollow switch. A single word blinked on screen, intercepted from dozens of enemy channels across the quadrant. Baba Yaga, the chamber murmured. We did not win a war, Okoye said. We reminded the stars that humanity is not a soft world. That if you burn our children, we will send something far worse than armies. We will send the witch from the Black Forest. Volkova's ship slipped into dark space without ceremony. She didn't return to Earth. She didn't respond to calls. She left only one transmission behind. For the 42. For every child who never got to grow up. Let the stars remember their names. And she was gone. But across the galaxy, her legend burned brighter than any empire. They called her a weapon, a ghost, a god. But back home, Earth remembered her the right way. As the last fairy tale you told your children before they slept. And the last one the stars would ever forget.